Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're having an outstanding day. I am doing pretty good. Got my coffee, got everything set up. Let's just dive right into this. Welcome to Break the Cycle with DSD. I am your host, Dwayne. I am an individual much like you who's been through a difficult time and developed some tips and techniques that I use to get my sanity back that I share with you to help you do the same. I'm not a therapist, nor am I an attorney. Just need to throw that out there. Remember, only a licensed professional can diagnose somebody with a personality disorder, so be careful when you go around throwing around terms because it can hurt your credibility, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later more. You like what's going on here and you want to help keep the lights on, you can do that by becoming a channel member. Just surf on over to youtube.com/Dad Surviving Divorce. Look for the join button. You can also look in the show notes and video description and consider picking one of the tiers and supporting it. And when you do, you get special badges, custom emojis, name listed in the credits, access to member-only events, and a portion of the member-only Discord. You want to get a text notification of when the show goes live? Text DSDLIVE to 844-598-0012, 844-598-0012. And if you want to participate in the show by asking questions or making comments, you can also do that by calling in 1-424-373-5483 or 1-424-DSD-LIVE. There's also a web interface, so if you're outside the United States and you want to try it, you can do that as well. Man, I blew through that fast today. It's hard to believe that it's already December. I didn't even recognize it yesterday when we were on the show. The year is flying by. I'm sure a lot of us are ready for this year to be over. It's been weird. There's certain parts of it that have actually been okay. Like this working from home thing is kind of cool. I'm hoping that sticks when we go back to more normal times. So earlier I was talking about credibility. And a lot of that has to do with approaches and how you deal with this situation. I was perusing the Facebook yesterday, and I am subscribed to a couple of father rights channels, or I don't know what the hell you call them on, I guess groups on Facebook. And I think there is this, I think it's a two-part problem. You get in the midst of other people who are constantly reinforcing that the system is against you and you're going to lose. And you get convinced of that, and then you start running out of options or ideas of what you can do. And if you're hopeless, and everyone's telling you that there's no way to win this, and I get that that's not necessarily representative of this community, but what I think happens is you get in that mode and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to lose, so there's nothing I can do, so I'm going to just do whatever I can figure out I can do. And oftentimes that's blasting everything on social media, making videos of your specific situation. And I understand that it draws attention to the problem, but I don't necessarily know if it does it in a constructive way. I agree that things need to change and reform needs to happen. And that's great. That's outstanding. And I agree with that. Things do need to change. But how do you, first off, one, get some sanity back in your situation, and then to effectively do that? I don't think whenever you I don't think whenever you start, well, let me back up. What I'm trying to say is this whole process has rules, or the game, right? There's rules of this stupid game. And when you decide, when someone else has the power to decide your fate, but you decide, I'm not going to play by your rules, how in the hell are you going to achieve any victory in that? You could turn around and say, well, you know, the system, the courts, the child support services, whoever throws some obstacle in your way, and you could say, I'm not going to do that. I refuse. And I've run into that mode myself early on in this. There were some times where I was being defiant just because it was the only thing I felt I could do. The problem with that approach is the system will crush you. You know, I mean, it's stupid because it's, well, let me back up. The whole situation is stupid. I'm not saying anybody who's doing this is stupid. But the reality is, sometimes it's as simple as, okay, you know, if you say, or whatever, you walk through this door, you can, you know, you'll get more of a victory. I'm not walking through that door. Oh, okay, it's your choice. You sure? Yeah, I'm not doing that. I refuse. Okay, right? It says right here, page 5, you walk through the door, we do this. You don't walk through the door, we can do that. My point about this is you have to be strategic in what you're trying to do. Get the number one priority, which is getting your sanity back and not fixing, but getting the best resolution you can in court. Don't go in there thinking that you're going to lose and just like, well, I'm going to lose, so it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to prepare and get mowed over. It's weird. I don't remember who I was watching the other day. And I'm just like, oh my God, man, you're going about this the wrong way. You know, you're pissing everybody off. You're making the judge mad, which it shouldn't matter, right? I mean, realistically, they should be neutral. But the reality is that isn't the case. And most people default to, okay, you did something, so let me punish you to give you some pain so you stop. It's weird. That's kind of even the mentality we used to have at work and management about a decade ago, maybe longer, that it was, you know, management by brute force. And over the years, it's switched to, okay, if somebody is having a problem, sit down with them and say, hey, what's going on? You know, things aren't going right. You're not doing well. You know, what's happening? Is everything okay at home? Is everything okay? And then show some compassion and then say, okay, here's the deal. You know, we do need to work on this because there's some consequences if this behavior continues, right? But there's still a whole large swath of people who don't subscribe to that type of approach. And I think sometimes in these other forums, people are so fixated on that, and it's almost a badge, you know, rite of passage, a badge of honor. Let me go in and get torpedoed in court so that I can tell everyone how bad I did. And it's not like overt that. It's not like people are thinking that. It's more subconscious, right? It's like your little inner voice is telling you you're going to lose, so you better prove it right. It is so tough to stay positive through all of this when you have so many people surrounding you and reinforcing that you're going to lose. I was talking about that yesterday, that I had so many people in my inner circle who were just like, yep, you know, you're going to lose, you're going to get hosed, you're going to lose everything, you're going to lose all your money, you're going to basically, you lose your kids, you know, I mean, your whole life is going to get destroyed. And they're saying it with like a smile. I was like, what the fuck? Sorry. What is wrong with you? You know, I was already in a panicked, anxiety-filled state, and bumping into everybody saying, "Oh, that's exactly the way it's going to go," is not helpful. And then you go online and you watch a Facebook live stream, and the person's telling you how they've gotten hosed and how it's not fair and how this judge is a piece of garbage and everything's corrupt. And you know what? I agree with you. A lot of this is corrupt. But but if you sit around and that's what you put your mindset, you're not going to get anywhere. And my final point on this is what this needs to happen is do the best damn approach you can to get to win the war on this. Now, granted, I guess you could turn around and say what I call the war could ultimately be a little battle in the entire process. But that's the most important foundation to get you to the next level. And what I mean is that, if you can get what you need and you win, then you're in a position to start trying to affect some change. You're in a position to go to legislative meetings to say, "Hey, look, this is what happened to me." And even if you're victorious, you can say, "Look, okay, I ultimately won, but it took 3 years or 8 years in a lot of people's cases, and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars." In some situations, we've had people call in and say their number is over 100,000. You got to learn the game that you're playing. On a more positive note, I was watching Eric Carroll from Dad Talk Today. He had Melissa Isaak on, and she's a regular over there. She even supports the Dad Talk Today platform. And they were doing a show, and Melissa was on it. And I don't know if she talked about this when she was on our show, but she was talking about cross-examining a gal and really trying to determine or ascertain if they really had the credentials and the credibility and the experience to be able to say what they were saying. And sometimes what they were even saying was even a conflict of their, what's the word? Basically, it was against their licensure to be saying and testifying certain things. She even said it at one point. She's like, "Well, are you sure you can do that?" I mean, because remember, guys, she was a therapist before she became an attorney. So she did her master's in that, got her licensure. So she understands the process. She understands that. Most people who haven't been around it don't understand it. So she was able to ask pointed questions, and she was using one example where the person was like, "Oh, I need to check on that," and they took a break. They made a phone call, came back and said, "Oh yeah, no, I can't do that. That's a ethical violation, and I can't do what you guys are asking me to do." My point about this, that's where we need to be spending our time. With what she's talking about, like with what Alex Falcone from The Proper Person is talking about. It's like, learn the process and use the process against them. Win, and then go and then try to expose it. Now, I completely understand, especially in the United States, because we have, First Amendment for the most part. So I know in other countries, like in the UK, you can't, everything in family court is private, and if you say anything, you can get yourself in serious trouble. My point is this. You can feel at the end of the day, well, I've completely lost, so I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to expose everybody. I'm going to post it on there, and I'm going to just basically draw a laser-like focus on it. And I get it, but I would much rather everyone here listening right now navigate this disaster, excuse me, and then have the most amount of times with their kids, and then go from there. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. I know for the most part, I think I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but maybe if somebody new hits it, maybe that'll give them a different perspective. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments, and we'll go from there. maybe you guys thought I lost my mind. All right. And I did notice there was a caller, so I apologize that I wasn't able to get to you. So if you call back, I think it was Tiffany, I'll bring you on. The wise chat manager says you have to have your eye on the prize. That is so very true. Oh, Miami Babe says, I'm grateful for you guys. It gave me a new perspective. I'm glad we could do that. I like this. Keating says, that toxic relationship is the antidote to the future. Yeah, that's the one thing is once we get through this, you can, and you learn from it, you can really take your life back, really minimize the effect that these people have. John says, had a judge and ex-attorney collude, and they were going to put a contempt on me. My attorney told the other attorney he's going to the board. The ex-attorney canceled the court date. Bottom feeders. Well, see, and that's the deal, right? It's like if you know the rules and you know how to use them against, your attorney, John, knew how to counter that. But they were just trying to okay, well, let's scare you, intimidate you, see if we can get you to go, oh, crap, I'm going to, I don't want to deal with that, and back off. The problem is most of the time we don't know what avenues we have to not go against, well, to counter those things sometimes, most of the time. All right, I'm going to go to this one caller. I have two callers, but I'm going to go to Tiffany first, I think. Hello and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing today?
Good. So they found that it's unconstitutional to tell people that they cannot disparage the other person on Facebook or your social media accounts because it violates your First Amendment right.
I know. Yep. I heard that happen.
You can go slam your ex.
I would still be careful because, it can still create some problems. And you don't want to get into a situation where you're doing a bunch of appeals to hey, remember there was a Supreme Court ruling that said you can't do that. But that should have never, if you think about it, it should have never taken that long. That should have been adjusted a long time ago. So, do you remember when was that? When was that adjudicated? Was that last year that they made that ruling? It wasn't that long ago. Was it this year?
This year in June.
No, really?
Yeah, this year in June, the state of Massachusetts is the one who kind of laid down the hammer on that.
About freaking time. So, I still would be cautious. That's like with me. I don't use the ex's name. I don't use the kid's name.
Remember, it's the best interest of the child that you don't talk about the other person and slam them down, but then you violate the constitutional right to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yep.
But then you've got libel and slander and defamation of character.
Oh, right, yeah.
And it's just a great little circular network of court.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. if you had all the resources in the world, or you were doing it pro se and you could do it yourself, then it's not a big deal. But like in my situation, if I would just get crushed financially. There's no way I could basically do it. And even if I did win, I would be basically bankrupt. I think that's the part of it. The system can sit there and say, oh, well, you have your day in court, Well, yeah, if you're a bazillionaire and it doesn't cost you anything, and it's like, oh darn, well, I have to go and buy another bag of chips, but for us, it's significant. It's not an insignificant amount of money or fight to jump into.
And speaking of court, I have court in 8 days, and I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff lined up, so hopefully this will finally turn the tide in your situation. And
when I talked to my attorney yesterday, she's going to be bringing up a lot more than just some of the intermediate issues that have popped up.
Good. Well,
she's going to be addressing a lot of negligence and a couple more videos of my naked children have popped up on social media. So she's going to get that all addressed in court in a couple more days.
Good. Well, and the nice part about it is you're building that pattern of behavior and with examples to show why you're concerned. Good for you. So that's next week?
Yep, that's next week.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for calling in, Tiff. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Man, see, this this goes into what I was just talking about, where you have to fight the system under its rules. We can sit there all day long and say this is wrong and they need to see the reality, but you got to paint the picture for them, and you have to do it in the way that they were doing it. In the way they were doing it, in the way they expected, I guess. One of the other things is, and I'll grab the next caller here in a minute. Oh, thanks, Merge. I appreciate that. Merge did a super chat. Says, make your arguments and evidence points directly to the best interest factors. A judge would err in law if they didn't apply it. Ask a narc in cross, why did you do X, do these things? Let them explain, not you. Excellent advice. Spot on. Actually, that's kind of getting into what I was just going to say what I was listening to yesterday in that interview, where that's what Melissa was doing in examining. I think I'm saying that wrong. The other experts, it's like, okay, well, you systematically go through that. I think we even had iTumblers before. That was kind of what happened in his situation, is they were testifying and undermining their position with their own quote unquote evidence. Anyways, let me, I think, okay, I got to figure out which one I'll do I do have two callers in, so I'm going to do the other one. It says current topic. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hey, Dwayne. How you doing? It's Techmore.
Hey, Techmore. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Good, man. Yeah, I haven't been on here. I just got your show this morning. I haven't been on for a while. I'm busy in the mornings, but no, I had to call in regards to your topic. I think I know who you're referring to, and I totally agree with some of the main players in this whole family court thing.
Yeah.
I actually 100% agree with you, and I took the same approach. It's like I didn't know anything about the system, so I got into it, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is dirty. Yeah. I'm going to get in, I'm going to dig in and go for the primary, and I got 50-50, right? Mm-hmm. But I know who you're talking about. He's actually a friend of mine, Cash. I'm pretty sure you're talking about him. And I don't want to say anything bad about him. I totally agree with his I agree, and then I disagree with kind of what he does, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with that. But
I'll tell you, just to throw it out there, he actually is not the person I was talking about.
Oh, okay. I was like, man, he's talking about Cash. I know. But,
no, I haven't.
But, Cash is a great guy. He's actually a pretty good friend, and I like his approach. He has been, and I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, do you take the backwards approach and try to overhaul a system that's been in place? I mean, we all know about Title 4D. I mean, all that stuff.
Right.
Or do you do like what Mark is doing? I always bring up Mark Ludwig. He's another friend.
Yeah.
He's taken the legislative political approach. So, there's all these different approaches. There's the bombastic approach, which I really like from Cash. And then there's Mark's approach, which is political, which, politics is politics. But I like that approach as well. And then there's Eric Carroll, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, people and then of course, Alex is also, he just pounds the law. There's things that need to be fixed. But from my
absolutely.
I literally said, okay, I'm never going to do this again. I'm going to dig in and fight. I'm not having any more kids. I'm definitely never getting married. I mean, it's just, so I just pretty much dug in. I support, I need to throw some dollars your way too. And then I support people that I can. And then I just focus on business and my kid and my life. I don't want to get back into this system ever again. So I totally agree. It's kind of fun to watch sometimes and see, but I don't really foresee anything. I don't know. I don't really see the system being changed. I just don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, it may be changed 30 years from now, but our kids are long. I mean, my daughter's going to be 8 next year. So I don't want anything to do with this anymore, ever. I don't want. I'd like to see a change for our kids, like what Mark is doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. It's a money machine. It's a corrupt money machine. It is what it is. But
I mean, it has changed. I mean, if I look at what happened when I was a kid,
kind of, yeah.
The reality is that when my dad going through this, when I was, 9 or 10 years old, there's no way in hell he was going to get 50-50.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, he ultimately got, basically primary custody of my brother, but that was because my mom dropped him off on the doorstep because he was too much like our dad. And, but I mean, and on top of that, if I remember correctly, there was no adjustment in child support. She basically got the award for child support for both of us. And he was, whenever my brother went to live with my dad, it was like he still paid. I'll have to ask him, but my understanding last time I talked to him that he still had to pay. And he was just grateful that he had one of us and thought that maybe he could save one of us from the nightmare. And,
you're right. So that was what was it? So that's a 30-year swath. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
You're really just trying to make me feel old. Yeah, no, I mean,
I am too, dude. I'm late 40. So
no, I mean, but see, that's I guess maybe that's the bigger picture, right? I mean, it's like if you look at it, like when I was going through my situation in California, everyone told me, "Oh, you're screwed. You're gonna, every other weekend you're gonna get standard visitation. They don't do 50-50 here." Well, yeah, they do. And if you've been, I mean, I know you've been on this channel a lot. You've heard, heard people from California. I mean, hell, there was somebody, I can't even remember who it was a few months ago who called in and had a young child, like under 3, and was able to get, actually might even been younger than that, and got 50-50 custody in California. I'm like, holy hell. So things things are starting to change. Things are starting to change. Yeah. It's just, you're right. I mean, the reality is that most of us who are in the middle of it, the changes that are going to happen that affect this situation, they're not going to see. The next generation of people will see it. And hopefully we'll get...
And that's kind of to Mark's point.
Right, yeah.
Mark Ludwig's point is like, what, my son is, and Mark's been through hell. Yeah. And, his this is for my son, but he's attacking both, like the rebuttable per state, 50-50, and then trying to go after the Title IV monster, which has been in place since 1975.
Right.
It was then Clinton just blew up to amazing, epic proportions in the 90s. But you're right. I mean, I got through, but see, you're right about that. It definitely has changed because if I went back 40 years, because I had 50-50 with my daughter at 2. But I also spent gobs of money in court because I had the financial, I was single and I was a consultant, So I had the financial wherewithal to do that. I figured out how to shut my mouth, play this little stupid game. And I'm like, okay, it's stacked against me. She can level all, just like Rick. She can say anything she wants. There's no replications. I just got to take it for a while and just shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And the reality is
30-40 years change that. I mean, I don't know.
But I would say the reality is that you roll the clock back 20 years and you could have had all the money not all the money in the world, but you could have taken that same amount of money, did the same fight, and you probably wouldn't have got 50-50, especially for a young kid. They would have said, oh, no, the formative years, that child needs to be with mommy and needs to, that's what they need to do. And then maybe whenever the kid's 21 would be a good age. You can see your kid.
Have an overnight.
On his 21st birthday.
You're right.
Yeah. No, I know, but I mean, okay. I mean, but the reality is, I mean, it doesn't change the pain that we all felt and how horrible this was. I mean, yeah, okay, it was harder for the people before us, but it doesn't mean that it was easy this time. I mean, it just means there's some changes, and it needs to get to the point. That's why I like the presumption, the 50-50 shit, I'm not saying it right, but the thing where you go in and it's like rebuttable, yeah, to where you go in and boom, it's 50-50. Because I'll tell you, man, if I would have been able to walk in that first time and the ex is like, no, he can, I think it's sufficient or adequate to see the kids every other weekend, and when I move out of state, never. And if the judge would have said, oh, okay, pumpkin. All right, well, it's going to be 50-50 right now while we're trying to figure that all out. And oh, by the way, the child support will be probably what it's going to be. So the numbers would have been lower. And exactly. Honestly, even at 50-50, it fucking killed me. I mean, it was still like,
oh, dude, I pay child support too. It's like they don't even care down here in GA, Georgia. Yeah. It's like, oh, 50-50. Oh, you're the bigger income earner. I don't want to say what she does for a living. I mean, works in the school system, so to speak. She's at a cap level. Mm-hmm. I heard it all. So I was like, this is hilarious. I mean, it's just, you bring up Title 4D and they just look at you like, wow, he knows the system. He knows the game. But it's like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to make a mistake. I'm never going to go back into the system.
No,
I'm
dude,
not going to roll the dice. I love kids. I come from a big family, but I'm not rolling the dice. I don't care how great the woman is or how great this. I ain't ever doing it again. You fool me once, you'll never fool me again.
Well, and then you roll in. I mean, you said you're in your late 40s. I mean, the other issue I think for us that are looking at that is there's not enough time to recover. If you hit the reset button at 45, or like let's say I'm 50. Let's say I had another kid and I picked another pumpkin from hell. That pushes me to 70. I mean 70. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't 100%. Be able to. I wouldn't be able to financially recover. I mean, I would basically be.
Oh, Dwayne, I've had to financially restructure. I was a road warrior. I was a consultant. I was a tech, just like you. But I was a traveling road warrior. I was all over the place, business, everything else. I had to restructure because when she was a baby, I had pretty much almost like 60-40 time, and then at 2 I had 50-50, so I completely shut down.
And if you didn't shut it, and if you didn't shut it down, you would have completely lost custody. And then they would have said you made a lot of money. It's like, hey man, you make a lot of money, 100%. So you have to work, but you can't be here to see the kids. Like, then they're like, look at all this money, like look at all this money you made. I'm like, look, I'm taking care of a baby. You know what I mean? I'm not on the road. I was on the road for 20 years, So I dealt with all that huge bias. I was like, wow, talk about gender discrimination. So I've been through all that. I've had to reset, change some things around, but I'm like, man, I am never taking that dice roll down. I'm never doing this again. Oh yeah,
never doing this. I'm gonna have a good time. Yeah, just never going down that path again. It's a massive gamble.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's because at the end of the day, you don't really know, I mean, sometimes I wish I would have had kids earlier. Right. I mean, we started late. So we started in our 30s. Well, no, what I mean is that if I was looking at it like, okay, I'm done at 40, you still have time to recover. Right. Being,
Well, yeah. I mean, so from my situation, so I had kids later, right?
Yeah, me too.
I'll be done, or should be out of the system. I'll be like mid to late 50s. Let's say about 56, 57, or 58. One of those.
Yeah.
I'll just, whatever. But and that's okay. If I would have done this in my 20s, I wouldn't have the financial resources to fight this.
No,
I would have been devastated because the child support was high initially. I'd get that a little bit. I mean, it's still high, but it's all based on what I used to do. I mean, even a year and a half ago when we got, I had 50-50, but I was like, look, I need to do the 7-on, 7-off. This 2-2-5 was fun when she was younger, but it's just too much, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
So
man.
I did the whole week-on, but we brought up child support, and X brings no tax returns. It's always like that. Never produces anything. And then I got all mine like, oh, this guy, he's got way too. Oh, look at all your financials don't make any sense. I got investments going in different directions. But it's just like I don't make what I did when I was just traveling all over the universe. You know what I mean? And I couldn't be a dad. But like, well, and they just brought it down just a tad. Even at 50-50. So it's just I was like, look, I have to die. I have to get out of this. And like I said, I went back to the whole school thing. But 100% what you're saying. Like, enjoy what you have, but I will never gamble and go down this road ever again. I mean, I'm gonna enjoy the time that I have and then call it good.
Hear you, man.
You know what I mean? And concentrate on this stuff.
So, well, thanks for calling, dude.
Yeah, no, I've been busy. Busy doing stuff, so working on some stuff. But yeah, I need to definitely need to become a channel member. It's funny you mentioned Eric. I was watching the replay late last night after I put my daughter to bed, and he mentioned your name. I was like, oh man, Dwayne was on there.
Yeah, I threw.
You asked a question to Melissa. So.
Yeah, I asked a question. I'm like, I got to participate. He's asking for questions. I got to come up with one. I was surprised he read it.
So funny.
So no, she's great.
So cool.
I mean,
but yeah,
we need more attorneys like Melissa.
Yeah, she's I wouldn't even call her 1%er. She's like a 0.05%er, right? I mean, she's a unicorn in that industry.
Oh man,
that horrific industry, monster of an industry. So
I mean, I'm sure she's not cheap.
Yeah, man, all good.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right.
I don't know. You never know. Yeah, thanks, Dwayne. Talk to you later. Bye.
Oh man, that's cool. Yeah, just to clarify, I mean, I'm not. To be honest. I do know I have heard of Cash Jackson before, but that wasn't the whole premise of this show. Was not based on his story. I think I did use a little bit of his the other day because he torpedoed his military career with a suicide attempt. You can't as active duty military, you can't be doing that. You do that, and then we'll boot you out. It's going to ruin your clearances. So it's definitely going to negatively affect your career. It's just tough because there's so many decisions you can make that just kind of set a avalanche of things going down. But and I was kind of more doing it as a conglomerate, a culmination of a bunch of different stories I've just seen recently. So I do have another caller. Before I go to that, so hold on, caller. I'm going to grab you here in a second. I just want to double check the comments before I do that in case I miss anything. Oh yeah, I know. Matt's been calling in. I'm just going to say that. He goes, I hear the same thing about New York, meaning that you never can get 50-50, and I have temporary 50-50. So surreal to be able to say that. Even at a temporary hearing, I wasn't even able to do that. I went from 80-20 to 70-30, maybe 65-35. But yeah, things, they're changing. They're just changing really slow, and it's not making it easy. It's not making it to where, you walk in and it's makes it harder for the toxic, high conflict person. It's still hard for us that we're fighting behind that. So, all right, now I'm going to go to the caller. Jeez. It says I miss cycling court. So I have no idea what it means because the auto screener doesn't work super wonderful, but let's bring them on. Hopefully, if I hit the right button. Come on. There we go. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dwayne. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, bud. I'm doing all right. Yeah, we talked last week, and I'm the gentleman out in Oregon that is fighting for this 2-year-old, and I just wanted to.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, we haven't heard from you in a while. Okay, how are things going?
Well, listen, like I said last time, I've got one overnight every week, and I got a third point of contact, and later in the week, and then it turns into an overnight. That third point of contact becomes an overnight every other week. So it's kind of tough. And now to kind of emphasize on what you're saying, playing your cards right.
Yeah.
And this is where first of all, my ex at the beginning of this put a restraining order on me saying that I'm just an angry drunk. I have anger issues, hit and miss with this and that. So what I did to tackle all this is I knew that as much as this is going to hurt, I had to play my cards right in order to show my best foot forward.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing is I enrolled myself in a parenting/domestic violence class. And I mean, it was it took me a year to get this done. And it was every Friday night for 2 hours for a whole year. I did this course, and I was like, okay, so now she wants to attack that I'm an alcoholic. Okay. So I drove up to a drug facility and said, hey, I need a UA and I need assessment and I need it now. They're like, what the hell? Who are you? You know, I was like, hey, I'm being accused of being an alcoholic and a drunk, and I just want to prove to the court that I don't do no drugs and I don't do no alcohol no more. And so I did that, and they basically assessment came back. Oh, you don't need a treatment. There's no drugs. There's nothing. And then I also did the state mandated kids turns class. It's a parenting class that parents through divorce or breakups with children have to go through. I mean, and then then the courts wanted me to do some counseling, and I did that. I mean, shoot, Dwayne, I did everything I feel like I was supposed to do to tackle everything that was going to be thrown at me.
And you did it before they told you to do it, right? I mean, so you walked in, absolutely. And when they said, hey, what about this? You're like, oh, here's my certificate. Here's another certificate. You did it right, man. You spot on.
And you know, I did all this work, and it was hard. It was challenging. It cost me money, but I wanted to get it done because I needed to show that I'm not that guy she's painting me out to be. Now, after all this work, though, like, this is where that black hole thinking comes in, where the system's against me, and you know,
that's
like,
catastrophic thinking. Finally, but yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And I finally went to court. You know, I was thinking, all right, I'm going to get 50-50. I know, I was shooting for that. But then my attorney, like, oh, this judge is old school. He's been on the bench for over 20 years. He said, you're probably not going to get it. And I'm like, don't be talking to me like that. Yeah.
Give me some good news. And so I ended up with the parenting plan that I have now. And I'm not happy about it. Like, I was shooting for closer to 50-50. I know my child's young, and that was going to be used against me.
Yeah.
Mom ended up winning with more time. But again, to what you were saying, though, I mean, you got to do the process. I mean, you got to do the work.
Yeah. Well, and probably had you not done all that stuff, you probably, because I mean, we were talking about your thing the other day. I mean, you get to see your kid every week for the one overnight, and then I think what's in 6 months when he turns 3, I think is what you were saying. Then you get 2 overnights a week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, you probably wouldn't have got that if you wouldn't have done a lot of this other stuff, you know?
Yeah. You know, and I want to believe that, and I want to say that it's true. It's just, again, my trial was different.
Yeah.
The judge, we didn't get to hear any evidence or nothing like that. The attorneys just went to the chambers and bounced back. And now here's the crazy thing too. Now, I actually talked to my ex for the first time over the phone yesterday.
How'd that go?
And last night. It was I don't know, it was eye-opening to me just to still know that she has a lot of contention towards me.
Oh, of course.
Now, mind you, now listen to this. So, and I don't know if this was a bait maneuver of her, a hoovering maneuver, whatever you call it. So yesterday, she emails me about this little security camera that I bought for her when I was living with her. And just out of nowhere, she emails me and said, hey, this thing is locked under your email. I want you to release it. And I'm thinking, okay, you make over 6 figures. I'm paying you a crap load in child support. Why would you email over a security camera that you could probably get on Amazon for cheap now?
Because it's it's a connection point. Because you're absolutely right. Any normal person who hates another person, who wants nothing to do with them, would just throw that thing in the trash and buy another one. But they constantly look for ways to have conversation and keep dialogue going. So just be careful of that. I mean, it doesn't mean that she's going to take you back and everything's going to be great. It just means that she's working on phase 2 of the evil plan, or maybe phase 3.
And you know what? Okay, now listen to these events. So she emails me yesterday about this camera. I'm like, okay, you know what? It was mine. I kind of wanted it back, but you know, I'll release it for you. She said, you know what? I don't want it then if you're going to be like this. I'm like, here's the confirmation. It's already deactivated. And I still have a few questions about the court order because there was a lot of confusion in like at the end of my court session. So anyhow, we talked, and I was basically saying, hey, we got court orders. Neither one of us is happy. And in my mind, like, I want to remove the contention, and because my little boy sees the resentment that we have when sometimes we're together, and I'm trying so hard, Dwayne, to like play the nice guy. And, you know, yesterday I talked, said, hey, you know, I want to know what all the contention's about. At this point, I want to start going forward and start growing from this parenting plan and figure things out. And she's like, oh no, like, courts are over. Well, we will have to revisit in 2 years if you want to. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm trying to negotiate outside the courts. We don't need to go through the courts no more. It just, all it does is grow more contention and resentment towards one another. It's not the right, like, I don't feel going to court's the right process, because it's awful sometimes.
Right.
You know, and so I am trying to negotiate outside the courts. She's like, well, I feel like the court order is a court order, and you know, there's nothing you can do to take my contention away. It's just going to take years. Some of the things that you did were irreparable. And I'm like, God damn, what did I do to you? Because I never touched her, never cheated on her, nothing
Dude,
like that.
You basically put a boundary up and you said no. You know, I mean, that's all it is.
What's that?
It's you put a boundary up and you didn't kiss the ring, so to speak. And the sad reality, and I understand where you're at. And because I went through the same thing. I'm like, all right, you know, we've gotten through this. How do we undo this? Or how do we try to come off the edge of this? And you know, you've heard my story. 9 years into it, it's the same thing. The ex is the same person.
Yeah.
You know, I get trying, but just keep your eyes open, watch the actions and words. And as soon as you finally realize that this person will never change, then stop beating your head against the wall. Now, I mean, and these people tell you exactly what's going on and what they're saying. I mean, she's basically telling you from what you just said that I'm never going to forgive you for not being the fantasy in my own head, and I'm going to make you pay. So be very cautious of trying to put yourself out there. And what you said is exactly the way it normally goes, right? They try something nice, like, hey, this, then you make a comment that they can be offended with. So it gives them the opportunity to be angry at you yet again. And dude, I'll tell you, I did that same thing a couple of times. There were a few times where mine would reach out to me, you know, for something and act kind of nice. And I would be like, okay, here's an opportunity. Kind of like it was along the lines of hey, this thing, can I have the password? And I would bend over backwards to do it. And as soon as she got what she wanted, it was a freaking jab in the eye. So just, you know, keep your eyes 100% open. Unfortunately, the sad reality is you are going to basically have to counterparent this person forever. The thing is you more than likely in 2 years, whenever it is appropriate for you to go back and try to adjust the support, she is going to make it as painful and as expensive as possible. And it's going to irritate you and it's going to piss you off, because it's like, why are we wasting this money for this? It doesn't need to be this way. They live and thrive in conflict, and you have to be the bad person. Now, I hope I'm wrong, dude. I hope that, you know, maybe in a couple of weeks you guys have a coffee someplace and can calm the F down and learn how to co-parent. But the sad reality for people who fall into this category, this high conflict, narcissistic, potentially undiagnosed personality disorder, is they don't change. I know that's a sad story to say. So you just have to basically counter-parent, or parallel parent is what they really call. I call it counter-parenting just because it's kind of funny to me to think that you're having to undo every day what the other person is trying to do. But you can be successful on that. You can navigate this, not play the game that they're trying to play, and set them up and document everything, right? I mean, I would just make sure you have a notebook and or an app. There's that on record app that I need to get out to people so they can start checking it out, where it helps you do your documentation so that later when you go back to court, you can easily pull out the patterns of behavior that have occurred to prove, like what Tiffany was saying earlier when she called in, to demonstrate what the hell's really going on to get the right change. But I understand where you're at, man. I mean, I don't know. I hate saying that because I mean, it's not the greatest, it's not the greatest message you put out there, but it's also the reality most of the time.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, man, like, her little bait and switch act yesterday, it did affect my day. You know, it's like what they're looking for now.
Yep.
Now this is what's crazy. So check this out. So yesterday, and I don't know what clicked in her mind, but yesterday she emailed me about that canary device. And then not moments later, after our email exchanges, and I let her know that I released it, she then posts photos like on my son's Instagram page that we used to have together of her and this new man that she's with at some tree farm riding the tractor, and my little boy's on this dude's lap, and yeah, it pissed me off for sure.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I also noticed that she was viewing my stuff still. Like, I was like, come on, like, what's the whole reason for this? What's the point of this? Like, you know, you're not letting me have my son more than outside the court order. You wanted to start an argument about this canary device that you could have bought with my child support and your 6 figures. You could have afforded quite a few of them. And then you're going to start posting with your new man and this and that, and with my boy sitting on some other dude's lap that you're not allowing me to see more than what's already ordered. Like, yeah. And then now, call me dumb, but during my conversation with this woman, I let her know that, hey, from the bottom of my heart, for whatever the reason, you know, you told me that these wounds are still fresh. You know, I want to apologize for the trauma and for the hurt that I may have caused you. You know, I really do apologize for it. Sincerely, as the mother of my child, I care about you, and as the mother of my child, I have to respect you. And that's why going forward, I want to start working on things to remove the resentment and contention. And she's like, and that's when she was like, well, it's going to take years. And I was like, well, that's not the answer I was looking for, but just know where my head's at is that I'm sorry. And I really hope that we can start coexisting in certain situations in regards to our son. And that's how we basically finished the conversation. I probably got nowhere.
Well, but okay. I'm not, you know, you said I can call you stupid. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is that there's a lot of times we have to do what we feel is right. Right. I mean, I can tell you that it had no effect. Right. It actually probably hurt you more with your relationship with her than by doing that. But here's the deal is you have to at least try. Right. I mean, you have to at least say, okay, I tried to apologize. I tried to put the olive branch out. They grabbed the branch and then they slapped me upside the face and then kicked me in the head, you know, but you have to do it. I mean, all of us, unfortunately, get into that mode where that's what ends up happening. And, you know, I mean, you just have to, the thing is now do what you need to do to prove to yourself that you've tried everything you need to do, and then start working on how to go forward to plan later to get more time with your son and undo what she's doing. Anyways.
And I'm trying so hard.
No, you're doing good, man. You're doing good. You're doing good. Just stay on track.
And sometimes when I think about it, it's just like, man, I must be trauma bonded still or something.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, it'll probably take you a couple of years to get over that. So God. It's going to take time, and you just got to make sure you don't make a bunch of mistakes. So on that, hey, thanks for calling, man. I appreciate it. So we're starting to run out of time. So, what I'll do on that, God, we only have like 6 minutes left. And before it goes off, I do want to say thank you so much to Mike for the super chat. It says, thank you. Thanks for what you do, Dwayne. Well, thank you so much for your support, Mike. It really means a lot. I appreciate that super chat. Helps keep the lights on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. But what I just wanted to say, let me turn that off, shut that off, is we all go through the phase to where it's like, okay, you know what? A normal person will finally stop playing these stupid games, and we can come to a happy medium to where we can actually co-parent, coexist, minimize the damage for a child, and make things better. The problem is most of the time with a high conflict spouse, whether it's a man or a woman, mom or dad, they will never have that. They'll never see that. So let me I'm going to try to go to actually I got 2 callers. I'll probably only be able to get to one. I'm going to go to the one that says, communicating with ex during court proceedings. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? You always call at the tail end.
I do.
I think you do.
I'm
Anyways,
so
what's going
sorry.
on?
So, I'm actually quarantined with our daughter. I have COVID,
Oh no.
and
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's okay. So I was a little frustrated the other day because our daughter tested negative. I tested positive, but she has to quarantine with me anyway because, the whole 14 days after I'm fine, she's still technically been exposed,
Right.
which is actually good because, I'm okay with that.
Right.
But I was frustrated because I just feel like as the father who's claiming that he's so concerned about our daughter, how have you not made any attempts to say, hey, you're stuck in the house. Does our daughter need anything? Like, no attempts. So I was very frustrated. I had started drafting a message to send to him, and I was debating, do I send it? Don't I
No,
send
don't
it?
send it.
And before I even got to send it, yesterday he sent me one, which no doubt is either the lawyer told him to or a family member told him to, and it's ridiculous. And he still doesn't ask, how is she? It's basically, if I to quote one line that made me laugh the best, if you could send me a picture of our daughter, I miss gazing at her. Like, what?
That's fun.
So,
See what I would have expected. I mean, because the move on that to me would have been, hey, you have COVID, our daughter doesn't. She needs to quarantine with me, and then after 14 days we can do something different. That's what I would have expected. But yeah, it's just a ploy, just to try to. And I think you said before that he really doesn't want. I mean, he doesn't necessarily want that responsibility. So. But,
exactly. And the doctor had told me if he took her, he had to quarantine for 14 days.
Oh, okay, good.
So I'm sure that's why he didn't want to do that. But no, my question is, she has been having a fever and been acting a little funny. It could be teething. It could be COVID. I want to get her tested. My financial situation is very bad. And the fact that I haven't been able to work for now 2 weeks, I have no income.
Right.
So I wanted to ask him to pay for the doctor's appointment because I still don't have insurance for her. Do you think it's a bad idea to respond and say, you know what? Actually, we need this much money for the doctor since you said, if there's anything I can do, well, that's something he can do. Or am I putting my foot in my mouth and setting myself up for failure with our next court hearing?
Well,
is it a trap?
It could be, right? I mean, but it also could work out for your advantage. Like if I was in your situation and I wanted to do that, this is what I would do. I would send a picture because that's what he asked for. And then I would say, hey, I would love to get little Susie, get a COVID test. I don't have the money for it. Could you cover it? And more than likely he's going to say no. And then that's a data point that you can use in court. And if he's smarter, then he would say yes and make it happen. So, I mean, I think the only risk for you is if you throw it out there and he said, and he handles it the correct way. That's the only risk, right? I mean, if he demonstrates, but see, that's the risk that's going to be going forward anyways, is that anytime he does it right, it's going to help his position on getting more time, at least later on down the road. But I mean, probably it would be it's one of those calculated risks, right? You throw it out there. If he misses it, then it gives you a data point to show a continued pattern of behavior. And if he does the right thing, okay, I mean, then it shows that he's getting better. But I don't know. If you have no other way to get the funds for it, I think I would send it. Maybe think about it more because I'm just doing this off the cuff. But and if you have an attorney, just double check with them. But I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. So, and we are anything really quick because we're basically out of time.
No, that's it. That was my question.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for calling. Anyways, well, that was good. And just for you guys know, that particular caller has a really young child. I think it's like 6-7 months, and the ex had vanished, and then just recently it's like, hey, I want to be in the kid's life, and it's just been a weird situation because these people love to make things weird. But we are basically out of time. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Just to let you know, I am trying to work on some interviews and stuff. I was hoping to try to do that this week, but it's just going back to working and having to go in and stuff has made things a little more complicated to schedule out. But I do want to say thank you for all the channel members. We were talking about that earlier. Those are scrolling across the screen right now. You guys really make all this stuff happen, and I really appreciate it. I'll be scheduling a morning member event on Saturday, which will be our normal little video conference thing. So watch out for that for channel members, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.